Hi. So this week, week 10, you have your annotated bibliography due. And I want to go over what this is going to entail because this is 10% of your final grade. So it's a pretty significant thing, and there are multiple parts to it. The first part is developing your introduction and thesis. And this is going to be basically what you are arguing in your final project. It's going to require you to actually come up with a thesis statement, which is a statement of what you intend to prove. It is not an outline of what's going to be in your paper. It's actually what you intend to prove about the topic that you've chosen. So you need a full paragraph, and somewhere towards the end of it needs to be your actual thesis statement. And what I tend to find with most students is that the thesis statement is either too broad, as in something that's going to take way long to prove, or it's not focused enough. You want your thesis statement to be very specific and to be something that you can tangibly prove with the 6 secondary sources and your 3 primary sources. All right, so this is the basics right here. You're going to define your topic with precision, why you think it's important enough to research. You're going to explain the historical context most directly relevant to your topic, and then you're going to compose that preliminary thesis statement for your final project. So that should be what you lead with. That should frame what I'm looking at when I begin looking at your sources. Then you're going to create 2 sets of sourcing. Your first set can be, and probably should be, your secondary sources. And this should be 6 scholarly secondary sources, which do not include the assigned text. They do not include your textbook. They do not include Frankopan. They do not include any of the other things that you have been assigned to read in the course. You may use those, and I encourage you to do so, but you need 6 independent secondary sources as well. And for each of those, you're going to have an annotation, which means you're going to give, first of all, the full citation for that source, author, title, date of publication, and then physical location, whether it was published by a book publisher or whether you found it online on a website. And then after you identify it specifically by its full citation, you're going to have your annotation. And in that, you're going to identify the author's thesis or central focus, which means you're going to give me a specific quote of what they intend to prove or a very succinct statement of their central focus. Then you're going to list the main points that they make to back up that thesis or central focus. You're going to identify the types of sources the author uses to support the main points, and these are going to be specifically primary and secondary sources. You're going to then give me at least several sentences explaining how this source is going to be used by you to support your thesis. So you need to, again, for each of your secondary sources, you should probably have 2 paragraphs, one that includes the central thesis of that source, its main points, and the types of sourcing it uses, and then a separate paragraph to explain how you're going to use that source, what area in your paper it's going to help support. If you need an example, you can look at the sample annotated bibliographic entry there from the UCLA History Department. After you do this for your 6 secondary sources, you're then going to have your 3 primary sources. And you're going to set them apart in a different section, identify them as a primary source, then give me some general information on the author of the source, when and where the source was created. This is its historical context. The purpose that this piece was written for. This is just like the purpose that you've been doing when you're doing the other CTEs in which you analyze primary sources. Then you're going to talk about its audience. Who was it geared for? How does that influence the information in it? And then you're going to discuss the bias or perspective of the author. What does this author take for granted about the source? Again, specifically the things that you've been doing in your other primary source analyses under the CTEs. And then you're going to explain the significance of the source and how it's going to help you, right? Now it's going to help you prove what you are looking to prove in your final project. Then at the end, you're going to have a general outline of your paper that is going to include at least 3 specific main topic points for this assignment. Yeah, again, there's a discussion here from Sacred Heart University on how to do this. You're going to write a topic sentence for each of those main points, and that topic sentence should be like a mini thesis. It should be supporting your main thesis, but also it should be a point that you're scaffolding, that you're using to prove your main thesis with a specific area that you're going to cover with that. And then identify in that at least one specific example drawn from the sources listed in your annotated bibliography, as in under that heading for your outline, you're going to list at least 1 or 2 of the sources that you're using and how it's going to fit there. All right, and then this is your basically how I'm grading it. Oh, and I'm sorry, it counts 15% of your final grade, not 10, 15%. So you want to be sure that you've got that nailed down really well, right? All right, this is how I'm grading it. This is the rubric for it for you to look at. So this is your annotated bibliography. It is due by the Monday of the 10th week. So coming up on the following Monday, you need to have this in. I am going to make another video explaining what we're actually going to be doing this week otherwise, because this is such a big chunk of your grade that I want you to be able to spend a lot of time focusing on it. If you have questions about what this is, please email me and let me know.